everybody, it's Bernie here from Stamp and Eat, and welcome to another Friday card making session with me. I'm so happy to have you here, and I hope that you are all doing really well and are super excited to be learning another awesome technique this Friday card making session. So, what I want to teach you today has been inspired by a card that I saw demonstrated by Gail from Blue Rose Papercraft, and she demonstrated a 4 tile card, and she used a different stamp and she used a whole different look. I'm going to give this another go with you and see how it turns out. Since I did that one, I've learned a few little tricks about where to place my stamps, so hopefully you will get to see an even better looking card with me. And of course, the thanks I've used from the amazing silhouettes. So what do you need for this project? Basically, what you need is a stamp set or a stamp that is closed, that is a solid image. And the stamp I'm going to be using today is from a retired stamp set called, I think it's Flowing Flowers, but I want to give this one a go and see how that looks. I've also used Orchid Oasis for this one because it sort of has that blue delta look to it, but you can do it in different colors. And I just want to show you an example where I was playing around, where I've done it in Evening Evergreen. So as you can see here, I just was having a look at what works. And this one I did in Evening Evergreen, and that one I did in Evening Evergreen. So you can get a beautiful look using a different color as well. But the difference between this one and why I went with that one is that my stamps were a lot juicier. And that's the other thing you need to be mindful of, is that when you do this stamping technique, you do want to use a stamp ink pad that is really well inked rather than one that is dry. So for this card, we're going to use a standard 5.5 by 8.25 base, scored at 4 1/8, and I made that card a landscape card. For now, I don't quite know which orientation I'm going to make it. It could be portrait or it could be landscape. We will put that to the side and I will decide the orientation once I have finished the design. Then what you'll need, what I did was I added some basic white cardstock, and I just did it with a texture in the background, and that is done to 1/4 inch smaller than your card base. So I'm going to set that to the side. And then you need a piece of basic white cardstock, and I'll just check the measurements on this one. This one is 3 3/4 by 5, and I cut it down to create that front of that card, and we will probably do the same. You will need a scoring tool for this, and you will need a embellishing tool that will be a good thing to have, and you need to use the thin side. And what we're going to do is we're going to score in increments of 1. And you're going to need to go over it at least 2 times, if not 3. And a third. So there you can see I have scored it. Can I pick that up? I have scored it at the 1 inches. Then I'm turning it around to create a tile effect, and I'm going back there to the 1, and I'm going over it twice, then to 2 inches, then to 3, and then to 4. And if I turn it over, you can see it's quite strong in terms of its print in terms of how it's been scored, but it doesn't damage the paper, which is great. So set that to the side. We will, excuse me, we will come back to the scoring tool again. I want to show you a nifty little trick when we finished working with this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to ink up the stamp and we're going to create the design on there. Now what I found on this, when I did this design, is I should have actually placed the rose more over the cracks or the tiles, and that would have given a much better effect. So I want to see how this works with this stamp, because it's a much bigger stamp. And so I'm just going to, I really hope this is going to work, because again it's a distinctive stamp as well. So let's play. Let's have a look. So I'm coming in here, applying all my pressure, and that works, but I'm wondering if it's going to be dark enough. We'll do it over there. Of course, it's also good to have, and I'll do one more. I'll just come in on the corner there. Okay, I feel like I need a little bit more here. Right. How does that look? That looks pretty. However, I want to add some leaves. I'm going to be adding some leaves from the Splendid Thoughts Cling stamp set. It's a beautiful stamp set, and I thought I'll just, or not leaves actually, some solid, I want to see if this works. Just stamp it off. Okay, good. I really am winging this on I'm not so sure about that. Let's see how it looks. Okay, we're going to give it a go. The next step we need to do is we need to go over all of it with Versamark. And then using clear embossing powder, I'm going to pop this into my embossing accessory kit, and I'm not even going to bother with the spoon. I'm just going to go over I can see there's a little bit here. And then I'm going to use my heat tool, and I'll just show you a little bit of it to see how it changes once it heats up. It gets nice and shiny. And you want to go over all of the design like that. So once you've finished, you're going to have a beautiful shiny design, and I suggest you just pop a block, or you can even put your stem pad on there just for a few minutes to get that nice and settled under the weight, because the heat of the embossing tool has made it sort of bend a bit. So while that is doing that, we're going to cut out the sentiment that we're going to use, and it's going to be the thanks out of the Orchid Oasis, and then I'm going to use basic white with the thanks that goes on top of that as a trim. Alright, so I've cut out the thanks and I've cut out the silhouette, so I'm going to just use my fine tip glue. Now I've taken my silicone mat away to wash it, so it's not available for me, so hopefully I don't get glue on my mat here, otherwise I'm going to get that stuck on my... Okay, and we're going to put that onto the Orchid Oasis background. Just match that up beautifully. There we are, so we can pop that to the side while I'm going to finish up the other part. So by now, hopefully that has just settled down a little bit. Now, a little trick that I saw Gail demonstrate to get this nice and flat, I thought was quite awesome. So what she did was, she took a piece of basic white cardstock and she used her scoring tool again, and she used her glue. Now you can use your tear and tape for this, or you can use your Stampin' Up! Plus glue, which I'm going to go and get. Okay, so I've got my Stampin' Seal. So what you do is you just glue some strips of this, or place some strips of this down. I just want to see how far. Yep. Oops, and that's sometimes what the Stampin' Seal does. So just move it so that it's got, of course now when it's, what I find helpful is if you take it down and then you take it sideways, it seems to work better that way. And across. So now, if you put it in the corner here and you butt that up right onto the end, that means that you are actually getting it all on rather than trying to aim straight. I thought that's pretty cool. And the reason why she suggested that you add this onto some cardstock is just to make it a little bit firmer. And I'm just going to trim this off, and I'm using my glue scissors so that in case there's glue on there, that I'm not getting that onto my paper snips. So here we have our design. Okay, now if I pop it on there, it's not really going to stand out. So what I want to do is I want to trim this down a bit more, and I want to put it like I did on this one. I want to put it on a Orchid Oasis background. So I'm going to cut this down a little bit more, and then I will mat it up with Orchid Oasis. So I landed up trimming this down to 3.5 by 4 3/4, and I'm going to glue that onto a mat that I made just an 1/8 of an inch bigger. I didn't want too much Orchid Oasis sticking out. I do just want to make sure I hold that down nice and firm. And I'm going to make the orientation, let's have a look, actually I'm going to do it portrait. So I'm going to glue on the embossed part here. Get that down. Just checking if the writing's the right way up. And then I'm going to put this like that. And I want to first do some ribbon. So on the back, I'm using my tear and tape. I have seen demonstrators wrap ribbon around twice. Personally, I think that's a tremendous waste of ribbon. I prefer to just use my normal technique where I put double-sided tape at the back, and then I will show you how I do it. And that is to simply catch it on the back, wrap it around, catch it on the back, do a U-turn, and then come forward and catch it on the back again. And that way you don't have ribbon on the back here that you're not wasting, because nobody's seeing that ribbon, and that's 3¼ inches of ribbon that you won't be using. So that's quite a lot of ribbon that you'll be wasting if you were to put it in the back. So that's my personal preference. I know there are a lot of demonstrators that do that, but I just think, you know, we just need to be frugal and look after the things that we have and work wisely with them. So I'm just really pushing this down firmly, because if you make this card, you'll feel the depth of it. There's quite a lot going on. All right, so now all we need to do is we need to create a ribbon. So I'm going to pop the loose end. I always take the loose end to the left, and I create a reasonable tail with it so that it gives me some thing to work with. My hands are full of glue, and I'm just going to make a ribbon. I say that every time. I'm making a bow with the ribbon. I'm making a bow with the ribbon. I'm not making a ribbon with the ribbon. Okay, snip that off. And now, let's have a look. Let's get that there. And where are we going to place the thank you? Now, I don't actually like that busyness there, so I think I'm going to put the thanks in the middle, exactly like I did. But this time I'll keep it flat. I was going to say this time I'll put it on dimensionals, but I'm not going to do that. So this is called the faux tile, faux, F-A-U-X, meaning artificial. So I'm just going to pop that over there so my eye can settle with all the... And you will just need to leave it to stick onto that, because you've put a clear embossing powder on there. So that is the technique that we have done today, the faux tile technique. As you can see, I've used 2 different stamps. I've used the solid rose, and then I've used a distinctive, which is still not sticking down properly, a distinctive stamp, and I do believe the solid stamp image is, I think, the preferred one, although you do see the nice lines coming through here as you are meant to have. So it really is up to you as to what style stamp you want to use, but I would suggest try using a more solid stamp set. So give this technique a go, see what you think of it, make a few cards, show them to your friends, post them on Facebook, tag me in it, Stampin' Eat. I would love to see what you have created. But the other thing I wanted to ask you before I love and leave you is, if you haven't, could you please subscribe to my newsletter? You will find a lot of interesting tidbits, card projects, tips and techniques, and I only drop that into your inbox once a month. So I would love it if you joined my newsletter subscription. The link is down below. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend, and remember, until we meet again, stamp, eat, sleep, repeat. Bye.